We can get so caught up in this idea of perfectionism. We can get so caught up in this idea of how is everyone else doing it, that if you want to be in flow and if you really want to just jam out in your own existence, whatever it is that you're doing, it's because you feel so aligned and connected with who you are at your core. Because when you're in flow in general, then you're showing up as the most authentic version of you. And that person is the person that we all want to connect with.
What is up, mindset hackers? I'm so excited. Today, I've got a very special guest. This is my mindset twinner, Hallie Avolio. We've been friends for a little over a year as of this recording, and we absolutely have such a great energy together. We love jamming out, but I cannot guarantee there won't be a couple of F-bombs dropped in this episode. So fasten your seatbelts, get ready to go. Hallie, what are we going to talk about today? You just mentioned giving an intention about what we're going to go into. First of all, tell me what we're going to do.
Well, let me just share what the intention was. Can I start there? Because
Absolutely.
That felt pretty awesome. And since you already gave me permission to use the F-bombs, it felt pretty fucking awesome. So here we go. We set an intention before we hit record on this podcast, Mindset Hackers, that everybody who listens to this recording, audio, video, however you receive this information in perpetuity, it is going to give you massive amounts of amazing energy. You're going to be fired up in whatever it is that you're doing, however you're showing up in your life, because guess what? This is your life. You are the main character. No excuses. We are here, Simon and I, to pump you up so that you're feeling amazing every single day.
Yes, I absolutely love that. What I love is I get on podcasts and I don't ever script these things out. Sometimes I might know an area that I want to go into, but I just love free flowing. When I used to DJ back in the club days, there's some DJs that bring a set to, they pre-record. First of all, there's some guys that pre-record everything. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Dead mouse. They pre-record their shit and put it on an SD card and bring it. And then they just like go through the motions, do the fist pump stuff. There's ones that like script it all out. They write down what their set's going to go down like. And then for me, I just love to bring, back in the day when I started doing it, I'd bring records in, real records back in the day. That's how long I've been doing this stuff. And you just go with the flow. You feel the audience, you feel the energy, and you just kind of go in any direction. One thing I love about my mindset twinner, Hallie, is I never have to worry about what we're going to talk about. We have such a good mesh of energy. And we've taught courses together. We've hosted what we call jam sessions, where we'd get some people on a Zoom call and just start diving into some really cool mindset stuff. So I just love it. We can just hop on, hit record, and decide where we're going to go. Hallie, do you have any directions that you wanted to head today?
Well, I want to start by talking about the word flow, because you said that, and this is what it sparked for me, is that so often, and I've been guilty of this myself, I know you have too, we can get so caught up in this idea of perfectionism. We can get so caught up in this idea of how is everyone else doing it? What is necessary? What are the rules? And I just want to throw this out there that if you want to be in flow and if you really want to just jam out in your own existence, whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's in your business, in your personal life, in your health, in your relationships, in your parenting, whatever it is, when you're in flow, it's because you feel so aligned and connected with who you are at your core. And you have to know who you are at your core. So I just want to offer that even if you mess up and you're out of sync and you don't follow the rules exactly and you have to like start over and press re-record and delete something and redo it, who cares? Because when you're in flow in general, then you're showing up as the most authentic version of you. And that person is the person that we all want to connect with, right? Like I don't want to be hanging out with the perfect scripted, I follow all the rules and I do everything the right, perfect way. That person's boring. Like I want to hang out with the person that's flowing and then just allowing life to be, mistakes and all.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And one of the reasons why Hallie and I get along so well with each other is the first time I did the jam session, which was, intended to be kind of a closed Zoom call where I talked about different topics. Hallie was actually my first guest. And right off the bat, we had this amazing vibe, this amazing flow. The next morning, she just reached out to me. She's like, I want in on this. And I love that Hallie doesn't have that fear. She doesn't wait for things to come to just fall in her lap. She takes actions. And I think that's such an attractive quality. And she pushes me, I push her, and we love to just, I like calling it, being a little bit messy, right? Not worrying about
Totally.
perfectionism, just going for it. And then, you're going to be fine. And I think Hallie and I do a really good job of just leaning into that and not, worrying about what people are going to think. And that's kind of something I wanted to ask you about or talk to you about. And we can kind of share some ideas around this, because I know this is a really hard thing for a lot of people to get past. And it relates to what you talked about perfectionism. Ultimately, perfectionism, I feel, is the worry of putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you dig deeper into that, it's because you're worried about judgment. You're worried about what people think. But Hallie, have you always been just so willing to jump in and get messy? Or have you had perfectionism in the past? Have you had that worry about judgment, about what people think? I certainly have in my past. And just being vocal on social media and podcasting has helped really get me to the point where I just don't give a fuck about what people think. But I want to hear a little bit about how you got to that point. If it was a journey for you, or have you always been like this?
No, it was a journey for me for sure. In fact, so as of this recording, I'm 42 years old, and I would say that I didn't even really step fully into that energy until I was probably 38, maybe 39. So I spent decades worrying. What are they thinking of me? Why are they judging me? I always felt like I was under a microscope. So I just have to paint a little picture. And if anyone has, hung out with me before, they've probably heard some of these points about my life. But I'm tall. I'm 5'9". I have big hair. I talk loudly. I don't look like a typical Southern California, which is where I'm from, surfer girl, skinny, blonde. That's just not me. It's just not me. But when I was growing up, I always thought that that was the expectation, that I wouldn't be loved or accepted, liked, asked to participate in anything unless I fit that mold. So I pretty much did everything I could to shrink myself and to not only compare myself to the other girls, but try to do everything that I could to fit in. And it sucked. It was a lot of work. It was exhausting, and it was heartbreaking. I mean, I can't tell you how many nights crying and feeling rejected and feeling like I was less than and feeling like I would never be successful. I remember when I was in high school, and I was kind of a late bloomer when it came to the relationship game. And I didn't have a boyfriend until I was like my senior year of high school. And all my friends were dating boys and, having all these relationships. And I would sit in my room at night crying, literally thinking that I was never going to find a boy or a man to love me. I was going to end up being like the old maid. I would never get to live out my dreams of getting married, having children, owning a home, being successful, all the things, because I compared myself so deeply to everyone else. And it was painful. It was so painful. And I tried so hard, but then I overcorrected, right? So I was constantly overcompensating and always felt like the awkward stumbling, who am I? What am I doing? And when I got into, after college and in my 20s, I started working in sales. I started to find a little bit of a rhythm, but then I tried to find this other mold. I tried to like morph myself into this like corporate suit wearing, really uptight woman who's going to like take over her corporation and just, take over the corner office by force or something. But that wasn't me either. So I spent so many years just feeling constantly under the microscope, judged, worried that I wasn't showing up in a way that was going to be accepted. And every time I did something, I questioned it. I mean, always. I always questioned it. I would sleepless nights. I had like physical aches and pains. I remember I lived in Los Angeles and I would drive. This is ridiculous. I would drive an hour each way in traffic to a chiropractor that somebody recommended to me to resolve the kink in my neck and back that was a result of me constantly trying to do too much, be everything to everyone. And of course, the drive in traffic just completely negated everything that the chiropractor did for me. So, I share all this because no, I was not confident at all. I had no confidence. I was just like, how can I be in everybody else's mold and show up as everybody else does? Because otherwise I won't be loved, accepted, liked, etc. It wasn't until, like I said, a couple of years ago, in the last 4 years, I would say, when I finally was like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I got to exhale. I got to take a breath. I got to be like, whew, I am not here to show up in this world as everyone else. I am here to show up as me. And turns out I'm a pretty badass chick, so works out for the
Hell,
best.
hell yeah. We'll dive in just a little bit. We'll dive into some action steps that people can take to NGAF about what people think.
Yep.
I'll tell a little bit about my story, but here's one thing that I've been absolutely geeking out on lately, Hallie. The way that you just described that is, you can feel the exhaustion from trying to play that game, right?
Oh God.
First of all, in the beginning, you were dimming your light for other people. You were dimming who you naturally are.
Mm-hmm.
You're toning that down for other people that you don't even know what they're thinking about you anyways, but you're assuming you know what they think, and you're assuming that you need to live within their expectations. But that game, whether you overcompensate or undercompensate, uh, it takes effort. It takes energy and mental bandwidth. And for me right now, I'm in a place where I don't have a lot of stress and anxiety. I am highly, highly productive because I'm not spending time worrying about that shit. And I would say that anybody who really gets away from caring about what people think can experience a big bump in energy. Your brain is the most energy consuming organ in your body. And if you're spending time trying to fit a mold, that's energy expenditure that you could be using to actually do something that moves your life forward. So I just wanted to bring that out really quick about my past. I talked a little bit about me being a DJ in my past. That was because I had a hole in, it was all part of the plan, and I'm so glad it happened, but it took years. And this is just a more recent reflection to realize that I went through that whole period of my life of where I needed to be the rock star DJ because, and this is so great that I can say this publicly and not even worry about what people think. And hopefully this inspires, but I mean, ultimately I chased this path of becoming like this rock star DJ because I had to get that external validation. I didn't feel like I made my parents proud. And so like I had this hole that I needed to fill up. And the way that manifested was me, seeking, stardom in the DJ world. And looking back on that, it's kind of foolish, but I'm so grateful for it because I wouldn't have got where I am now without that. But there was so much energy expenditure in trying to live that life. And it's so funny to come back around and to see that now and to come, to have that hole filled. The crazy thing is I was giving my parents the bar which I measured it with. My parents are plenty proud of me. They're just not, they don't care if I'm a DJ or not. They care
Right.
about me, but it's a perfect example of like, we think we know what other people are thinking, and then we try to live up to that expectation when really we have no clue what they're thinking. So why don't we make it one that frees us up to be the most authentic versions of ourselves, right?
But here's the other like side of that, right? No one is thinking about anyone but themselves. No
Exactly.
one is thinking about anyone but themselves. Now, I'm not saying that like I don't consider you, Simon. Like you're a dear friend. Do I think of you? Am I compassionate toward you? Do I want you to be successful? Do I see something pop up that you post? I'm like, "Oh, I'm so proud of Simon." 100% absolutely, right? That's not what I'm talking about. But when we are worried, right? When we sit in this energy of worry, comparison, overthinking, perfectionism, taking a back seat, dimming our light, trying to do something because it's a mold that we think someone else expects of us, no one is actually thinking about what you are doing. They're thinking about themselves, right? We wonder, this may be more relevant with women, but I think it applies to men too, is, think about going to the beach or the pool, right? And how much time and energy do you expend thinking about, oh God, how do I look in my bathing suit? Are they going to see my rolls? Do I have enough muscles? Do I have a six pack? Do I look good in this? Do I look not? Nobody freaking cares. Like everybody's worrying about themselves. They're not even looking at you. So all the time that you waste not showing up is wasted time and energy because everybody's just in their own zone, right? So if
And
we
when
can
we
start
talk
to
about
shift
it,
that narrative, it's
it's
like
so
mind-blowing.
ridiculous when we talk
It's
about it too.
crazy.
Yet we do it all the time.
All the time. I mean, this is like human nature, right? So the good news is we're all humans. We're all playing the same game. So if you're really like set on, I have to compare myself to other people, you are a human. So compare yourself to other humans. We all do the same shit. That's all.
Yeah, and the reason why we do that, just for the audience, is our prehistoric roots. Okay, we were wired to find shelter, to find food, to find heat, and to find a tribe. Because if we
Yep.
didn't, that could mean death. So a lot of this stuff roots back to our prehistoric wiring. This is so fascinating to me. It's called tribalism. But we have that still in our DNA, where we want to fit in, where we want to find a tribe, and we're safe. But a lot of times, like, our mind doesn't feel that way. So we're always, we don't want to get booted out of the tribe. And that's a big reason why we care about what other people think, is, it's in our DNA. We don't even realize it, but we don't want to be kicked out of a tribe. We don't want to be banished. And so we conform, we dim our light. The cool thing is you're fucking free to fly, my friends.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, okay. So since we wanted to talk about affirmations, shameless plug, I made an affirmation card deck, but I have one sitting here and it's like absolutely perfect. No coincidences. It says, I am ready to shine because I am full of light. Sitting on my desk right now. I didn't have to shuffle. I didn't have to do any voodoo. It's just right there because the universe wants us to remember this message. I am ready to shine because I am full of light. We're all full of light, right? We all have light within us. And here's the cool part. And I just had this conversation with a client an hour ago. I said to her, I said, she was struggling with some body stuff. And, a lot of us, men and women, we struggle with our bodies. We struggle with feeling like good enough. Are we fit enough? Are we healthy enough? Do we look good enough? Blah, blah. I said to her, your body is absolutely magnificent because it allows you to do all these magical things that you're doing. And no body could do the things that you're doing other than your body. So let's celebrate it. Let's celebrate your body, right? If we can take out the ego, we can take out this tribalism survival, we can, kind of change these stories, these narratives that get passed down generationally, ancestrally, right? We have the opportunity to change our story and to change what we believe. That's what gets me so excited, Simon, about working with you, talking with you. I feel this massive energetic shift that's happening in the world right now. And I love that there's so many people that are committed to personal development, mindset, spirituality, living in a place of self-love, right? Really checking in with self-awareness. And to me, that's the gift. The gift is the self-awareness, right? It's not about if you're perfect, if you look a certain way, if you do a certain thing, if you make a certain amount of money. It's understanding who you are at your core. Because when you understand who you are, then you can make the necessary adjustments and calibrations, and you can get into that flow and you can really shine your bright light because you're like, this is who I am and this world needs me because there's no other me. Like, I am the only me there is. So I'm going to be the fucking best version of that me that I can be.
Absolutely. This makes me think about a book. It was actually a blog at first, but it got so much attention, and then it became a book. But it was written by a palliative nurse named Bronnie Ware from Australia. What she did is she was with patients who were in hospice and they were on their deathbeds. And she, over the course of 10 years, she would interview them and ask them, what was your biggest regret? And there's
Mm,
5 of them that really stood out with most people. But one of them was, I wish I wouldn't have lived a life based on the expectations of others. That is fucking huge. I mean,
huge.
I hear this all the time. Like, people are in a job, doctor, lawyer, whatever, and they hate it. And it's like, how did you even get there? Well, that's what my parents wanted me to do.
Yep.
And I feel it is a big calling of myself to help people break away from that, to realize that wasn't your dream. Like, when were you programmed to do that? And how can you free yourself out of that? How can you liberate yourself? And
Right.
it's all about small steps. I mean, I'm not immune to this either. I feel like for the most part, most of my life, I've been very confident. But I remember when I started leaning into this space and wanting to get my voice out, it hasn't even been 2 years since I started doing that. And I remember initially I would have this, when I started posting on Instagram, I'd want to talk about meditation, self-love, stuff like that. And I was like, oh man. And my conscious mind knows that it was fine, but I'd still have this resistance inside. Like, what is that jock from high school gonna think? Simon's a total pussy. It's like, well, first of all, they're not even listening. Second of all, they aren't thinking that because, like you said, they're thinking
They're
about
thinking about
themselves
themselves,
instead.
right?
Third of all, who the fuck cares? And it's like,
Right.
my conscious mind. So it took some rewiring and just leaning into that. But I really feel like, people, by getting your voice out, like if you even have that feeling like, I don't want to do it, you and I both would agree that's exactly what you should do, is start leaning into that. There's a reason why you're feeling like you shouldn't. And I
Well,
think
it's
getting your voice out, whatever platform that, if you're holding back and you have something to say, okay, that right there is that is where you're not free.
I love the synchronicities. So something that I've been really sitting with in the last couple of weeks in particular is this it's a quote from the universe, right? So the universe says, I had to make you uncomfortable, otherwise you would have never moved,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? Because
Right.
if we're in our comfort zone, which basically you can think of your comfort zone as stagnation, you could take that a step further and say that your comfort zone is like withering away. Maybe even say your comfort zone is death if you go a little bit drastic. But right, the comfort zone is not where you grow, thrive, and expand. If you stay in your comfort zone, you're going to, be flat. If you allow yourself to break free from your comfort zone, to go beyond those fears of what will they think of me, to go beyond the fear of what if I mess up or fall on my face, or to go beyond the fear of what if it's messy? What if I have to redo it? So what? Who cares, right? We have to remember that our brain wants to, like you said in this tribalism concept, our brain wants to keep us safe. And that's awesome. But there's no saber-toothed tiger chasing us anymore. And the fears that we have are not real fears of death most of the time, right? The fears that we have that are holding us back from living this life that could truly be fantastic. And then these people wouldn't have been regretting it on their deathbed, right? If we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
show ourselves, we can move forward. It's
When you were describing the before Hallie and how exhausting that was, and then the Hallie that's fucking unchained, or the Simon that is unchained and free to speak. I mean, doesn't that feel good when you just like,
so
fuck it,
good.
blast it out? Like, isn't that the most freeing feeling when you have something on your mind and you get that, like, that feeling of, oh, I don't know if I should post this or say this, or, you
But I'm
know,
going to do it anyway.
yeah, then you do it. You're just like, whoa, that feels so good.
And sometimes I mess up.
Totally. I
Even
mess up
me,
all the
I mess
time.
up, and it's okay. Like it's fine, like pretty much nothing is irreversible. Everything is
Right.
temporary, anything, the good and the bad.
What's
Everything's
your biggest
temporary.
fuck up? Do you have one you can share?
I mean, there's so many. It's hard to like nail it. Let's see. I've hurt people's feelings. That's usually where it gets me the most, is where I've said something or done something. Well, I have one that I can think of, and it's on my mind because I talked about it to somebody recently. A few years ago, when I was first getting started in this online business, I was still figuring it out, and I found myself getting into this weird, fucked up mindset around jealousy and around followers, and I was getting caught up in who's following who, and I felt really possessive of the people that were like following my Instagram account. And there was a woman that I was kind of collaborating with, and I felt like she was stealing my followers, and I let it get the best of me, and I just went a little aggro and I blocked her, which of course we know that's like, unless you are seriously trying to not be with somebody, like, you don't block them. And she was a mom at uh, my daughter's school, and her daughter and my daughter are still friends, and it like really hurt her feelings, and I didn't realize how painful it was. And then when I did realize what I had done and how painful it was to her, I apologized, but she wouldn't accept my apology. And I tried many times to apologize over text message, over conversations, even in person. She wouldn't accept my apology. And I had to finally just say, like, I messed up. And if she can't forgive me, that's I have to own that, right? And I felt bad that I made her feel as bad as I did. So that's just one example of where I did make an error. I did own it, and I did eventually, ask forgiveness, but I wasn't forgiven. And it just, I just have to kind of sit with that and be like, well, oops, like, but I move on, and I'm not perfect. And yeah.
So, yeah, since I've brought up being a DJ and how, like, I was seeking that external validation, I'll mention a couple of my fuck ups. Oh God, sometimes we'd be so drunk and we'd be
I've made plenty of those fuck ups too, by the way.
Well, that's kind of, it kind of dulls it, so it's not as embarrassing. But I remember there was this, we were still using records, and eventually this all went digitally. But we used to have records, and there's that tone arm that goes on the record, and we had the microphone. And one time, me and my buddy, we were so wasted, and we had like the cord to that, like behind the tone arm, so it kept skipping, and we're looking at the record, looking at the needle, like a couple of dumbasses in front of a crowd of like 500 people trying to figure out why the hell it's skipping. It was so funny, but you know what? We survived. We're
Right?
okay.
Life
You
goes
know, like you
on.
could do, yeah. You know, there's times where I have a Zoom call or a class or something, and something goes wrong, and I mean that people get it, and it's like you said, it's really relatable. I want to dive into like what people can do, but before that, can you mention ego? Let's talk about that for a sec. I'm going to let you take the mic on this. Talk
Sure.
about ego and why ego fucks you up.
Yeah, so, we have to also honor ego, right? We have to give ego some credit cuz ego has a very valid place in our structure. And you can look at ego in a couple ways. So there's, the one ego, and then you can say that we're also made up of many parts. And so that there's many parts that will show up in our life at different times depending on external triggers and why do they show up and what is the purpose that it serves. But ultimately, when we get caught up in future tripping, right? Like worrying too much about what's going on in the future or living in the past and constantly beating ourselves up, that's often your ego, right? When you are not living in the present moment, that is the ego talking. That is the ego trying to trip you up, make you feel like you can't do anything right, making you feel self-doubt and second guessing yourself. And when you can, kind of the way to combat this is, and I really love the work of Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The Power of Now and A New Earth. So I highly recommend that to anybody listening. And he talks a lot about this work, about understanding the virtue in being present and being in the now and being with the emotion of who you are right now in this very moment, because otherwise your ego wants to take control and send you to a place of worry, of self-doubt, of insecurity, of you're not good enough, of holding you back from manifesting and actualizing what it is that you truly desire. So one of the things that I work with both myself and with my clients is, let's be right now in this moment, because right now in this moment, this is what we have. We have right now. And when we are here right now in this moment, we have the opportunity to immerse ourselves in massive energy and create everything that we desire right now. And that is where the magic happens.
Absolutely. I need to revisit those books. I read them probably like 15, 20 years ago. And it was just, I was not in a place to receive that like
Yep.
I could be now. But thank you for sharing that. So here's one thing too I wanted to mention is if you're holding back that voice inside of you, I had Claudia on here the other day, and we were just talking about how she had some emotional trauma and just went inside, just closed up, because you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
get hurt, you close up.
Yep.
But that can build up, like you have something to say, you have a voice, you have something that's important to you, and you want to share it with the world, and you hold that back. Over time that can build up and can be debilitating, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. I mean, we put up walls for protection, right?
Yep.
And here's the thing, you can't be in relationship with yourself and therefore with others until you allow yourself to be vulnerable. And being vulnerable means you expose all parts of yourself. Being vulnerable means that you show your deepest, darkest sides of you, the most beautiful sides of you, the lightest sides of you. But there's also the darkness that goes along with it. And being vulnerable is really how you connect. And I always talk about, you have to connect to yourself first so that you can truly connect with anyone else in any relationship. But if you put up the walls, you can't form that connection. You can't form that connection with yourself because you're constantly running. You're constantly trying to escape. And trust me, I lived in that for many years. I struggled with alcohol. I struggled with eating, disordered eating. I struggled with, you know, multiple issues related to my relationship with my husband. And it's hard. It's hard to be vulnerable and to be true and to be in here in your soul and in your spirit. I love the work of Brene Brown, who talks about vulnerability and shame and really looking at yourself, really going inward. And one of the best things that I will share, and I hope that if you take away nothing else from this, that at least you'll give yourself an opportunity for this gift, is sit with yourself in silence every single day for at least 5 minutes. 5 minutes. It can be driving your car, it can be in the shower, it could be taking a walk, it could be sitting in meditation. But if you give yourself the gift of 5 minutes to go inward every single day, no music, no talking, no reading, just you versus you, it is one of the best ways to calm the ego, calm the nervous system, be connected in the present moment, and really get connected to that deep, beautiful self within.
I love that. So that's the first area to lean into if you're not already. I'm huge into meditation, as most people know. That's the first thing I do in the morning. I love it when I can get 40 minutes to 50 minutes in. And, part of that's visualization, but part of that's meditation. And Hallie's saying that that's a good way to get to kind of separate from the ego a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I want to do next, and then we'll wrap this up. I want to give the audience 3 specific actions that they can do to help build I call it the NGAF muscle, the not give a fuck muscle. How do we do that? I'm going to give one. I want you to give one. I'll give one. And then you give one. So we give 3 action steps to
Perfect.
help our following lean into that and to be fucking unchained. So you go first, I'll go next, and then I'll have you wrap it up.
Well, one thing that I started doing in the past few weeks, it's been really, really powerful and super easy. I like to talk about things that are simple, sustainable, and fun. So before you go to sleep at night, when your head's on the pillow, you close your eyes, you're just about to fall asleep, and you say, thank you to whoever you speak to, whether it's God, the universe, it could be yourself, it doesn't matter. Thank you for this beautiful day, for letting me live this beautiful day in this energy. Thank you for allowing me to let go and release what no longer serves me from today so that I can elevate myself as I move forward in each next moment. And when you wake up in the morning, before you open your eyes, you say a similar prayer and you say, thank you for allowing me to step into my fullest power today so that I can optimize exactly who I am and be the best version of me.
I love that. Okay, my tip is, I've already alluded to this because this is what I went through and it's been so liberating for me. Get on the mic and say what's on your mind. Whatever audience you have, if it's Facebook, if it's Instagram, if it's social media, if you get asked to speak in front of your team at work, do it. Start doing it a little bit more and say what's on your mind. Be willing to share your wisdom, your knowledge, but I would be really encouraging of finding out where that resistance is and leaning into it. And I just feel like social media is a great way to do that because you can walk into you don't have to jump in the deep section, right? You can put your feet into the shallow part of the pool and start wading in and you'll start feeling safe. But I don't exactly want you to feel safe. I want you to feel uncomfortable. I don't want you to jump in the deep end and I don't want you to hang out in the shallow section. But start getting in that pool and start walking further and further. Feel that uncomfortable, notice it, ask where that's coming from and lean into that, right? When you feel that nervousness of like, I have something to say, but I don't want to say it, just take a minute and observe that. Step outside of that thought. Ask, why is that there? Where's that coming from? What's the root of that? Is it really that big of a deal? And then do it. Don't overthink it. Do it. So that's my tip. Okay, give us one more.
Okay, I've got a good one. This is my favorite. I talk about this all the time. It's just amazing. So simple. 3 words, an affirmation. But I'm going to tell you not just the affirmation. I'm going to give you an action step. The 3 words are, I am enough. I am enough. And the action item, I'm going to give you a little visual if you're watching the video. You are going to set up 3 alarms on your phone for 7 a.m., 12 p.m., and 7 p.m. in your time zone. You could change those if you like a different time, morning, noon, night. And each time the alarm says, I am enough. And every time it goes off, you will say the words to yourself, I am enough. And I will tell you, I've been doing this for months and months. I've taught this to hundreds of people. I have a video on TikTok that has nearly 500,000 views that shares this same tip. I am enough, the three most powerful words that you can say, because it allows you to stand in your power, to not give a fuck about what other people think, because you are enough as you are right now in this moment. And that, my friends, is how you elevate yourself and become a mindset hacker. How's that?
I love it. I need to add on to that because we a lot of times people who struggle with self-worth, they're like, you don't need to do anything to be worthy. You were never not worthy until you start talking yourself out of that, right? Like
Exactly.
you don't need to do something or be somebody to be worthy of having
You
a good
already are
life.
worthy.
Yeah. And at one point in your life did you get programmed to think that you need to do something? And I mean, we can get, that's a whole nother area we can go into the programming of, us as parents trying to do the best job that we can, but putting expectations on our kids. But we'll save that for another one. And then we're gonna go into affirmations too. I'm gonna really pin Hallie down to being more prominent on this show and using this to get her magic out. She is someone that absolutely inspires me. I just feel such a deep connection to Hallie. I feel so honored to be her friend. I get she sometimes leaves messages, DMs for me, a morning motivational minute, where she used to have her own little segment on LinkedIn doing that, and YouTube. And it's like, I feel so special that and so honored to have a friend like Hallie to take a minute and leave me some motivation in the morning. And I invite her to be a part of the show as much as she wants to. And we are both going to do our best job to support you and to help you lean into whatever is holding you back. And we've been there. We are still there. We're all doing this together, my friends. I would love it if you would share this episode with somebody who could use this message right now. Please subscribe to this if you haven't already. And please connect with Hallie. She's got an amazing affirmation deck that you can purchase. Go to her LinkedIn page. Do you want to shout out your Instagram handle as well?
Yeah, my Instagram handle is at sassyhealthyfit. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me anywhere you want. Hallie Avolio, Sassy Healthy Fit. I'm on all the places, but I just want to also say, Simon, that you are amazing. The fact that we just have like bonded, connected, share so many philosophies and energies it just lights me up. And I feel I really feel so grateful. For all those years in my life where I didn't feel accepted and I didn't feel loved and I didn't feel liked and I felt like I had to be this other person to fit this mold. It is so incredible to me that when I decided that I was good enough as I am and I'm worthy as I am, as me, the real me, that's when I meet the most incredible people like you. Because I've never met anyone like you, Simon, and I never had connections like this when I was trying to be somebody else. So I am so grateful, and I'd love to be, a regular. Maybe we can make this a monthly segment or do something fun like that. So
Absolutely, let's collaborate on that. The thing that's cool is Hallie, she felt like she didn't fit in, and then she found, where she might fit in, but now she's creating that. Like, I am a reflection of what she's creating by the person that she is. All right, my friends, I will wrap this up. And one last thing about her affirmation cards, those make a really good gift. So please think about somebody in your life that could use those affirmation cards, because words are so powerful. Find Hallie on social media, purchase one, if not several, of her affirmation decks and send them out as gifts. Spread that love to other people. I'll see you next week, my friends.
thank you. We can get so caught up in this idea of perfectionism. We can get so caught up in this idea of how is everyone else doing it, that if you want to be in flow and if you really want to just jam out in your own existence, whatever it is that you're doing, it's because you feel so aligned and connected with who you are at your core. Because when you're in flow in general, then you're showing up as the most authentic version of you. And that person is the person that we all want to connect with. Right? Like, I don't want to be hanging out with the perfect scripted, I follow all the rules and I do everything the right, perfect way. That person's boring. Like, I want to hang out with the person that's flowing and then just allowing life to be mistakes and all.